It's no surprise that in the modern day, we always feel like we're behind on the things we need to do. With social media apps and content platforms all competing for our attention, it feels more and more each day like time is our most valuable resource.
We especially felt this in a huge way after we both finished university and found ourselves regularly working 12 to 15-hour days, including a lot of weekends.
But as we move further into the information age and we begin to discover all the possibilities of things we can do via the internet, we all have experienced that feeling that we can do more with ourselves and with our lives if we just had a little bit more time.
The reality of the situation is that we all have the same 24 hours each day. If we factor in time for sleep, work, exercise, personal time, family time, and socializing, it feels like there's hardly enough time in the day to do all of those things, let alone take on even more. Hi guys, welcome to our channel. It's Em
and Lloyd, and today we want to talk about our top productivity strategies for getting things done. Emily and I both keep pretty busy schedules in our day-to-day lives. Even with just work alone as corporate lawyers, our typical workday is around 12 hours long, and when things get really busy, we can expect 15 or more hour days.
At the same time, we try to prioritize getting sufficient and good quality sleep as well as exercising regularly. We usually go to the gym about 3 to 5 times a week on average for the both of us, and while this fluctuates a little bit based on our schedules, it's been a constant in our lives for about 7 years.
On top of this, we try to fit in as much social time with our friends as possible, as well as personal things for enjoyment as well. I always try to make time to play video games, for example, and Emily always tries to make time to paint. We try to make time for each other too, and on top of that, recently we've spent a lot of time trying to build up our YouTube channel.
Now, it was definitely a process and a challenge figuring out how to fit all of these things into our schedules without burning out. However, all of the things that we try to fit into our lives are things that we really care about or are passionate about, so we figured out how to fit everything in without completely burning out in the process.
So there are a number of productivity hacks that we've used over the years that have really served us well and which we want to talk about in today's video. So the first thing that's really helped us, especially in recent months with our new YouTube channel, has been batching. Batching is the concept where we hold off on doing certain tasks until a bunch of similar tasks have accumulated and we do them all at once.
We use batching for both work and personal tasks. For example, a lot of times we hold off on replying to non-urgent emails or messages until we have a pocket of time, and then we reply to everything in one go. This can be especially effective for saving time in situations where there's some initial setup time required. For instance, when we're filming YouTube videos, it does take some time to set up all the equipment, so it makes sense for us to try to film as much as we can in one go.
The reason that batching helps us get more done is because it limits the amount of time and energy we spend context switching. Context switching is the process where we stop thinking about one task and start thinking about another. It takes quite a lot of energy to do this, even if the task that we're picking up is relatively minor, and over time this leads to a lot of wasted productivity. So as an example, we personally find that if we're working on a large task, if we stop to check our phone and even respond to a simple text message, it takes quite a bit of energy to get back on track with the thing that we were originally working on.
We've all had an experience where we feel like we sit for ages trying to work on things, but in reality we only get a little bit of work done. We find that this often happens when we break our focus too much and when we context switch too frequently.
While batching may not always be practical for work situations, we do try to apply a similar principle by context switching as little as possible during our workday. For example, if we start the day with a lot of emails in our inbox that we need to deal with, but most of them only require short responses, we tend to do the shorter ones first to get them out of the way before we get onto our larger tasks, such as longer emails that we need to consider or drafting. By doing this, we ensure that when we get to our larger tasks, we're not going to break them up with smaller things that we haven't yet done.
Doing longer tasks like substantial amounts of drafting take a lot more time and focus if we're switching back and forth between a lot of tasks all the time. It takes time and energy to remember and think about everything we need to on any given matter. So to the extent possible, we try and create periods of time where we can focus on one thing without breaking our focus by context switching. For example, as a mid-level associate, I do delegate work a lot, so I try to, if I can, delegate all of my work in one go before I move on to a more time-consuming task, like drafting a witness statement.
We try to pair batching with work and productivity strategies that emphasize bursts of focused work, like the Pomodoro technique. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with this, the Pomodoro technique involves setting a timer for a focused period of work, which usually is around 20 minutes, followed by a period of rest, which is about 5 to 10 minutes, and then just repeating the cycle for as long as you need to work.
It may seem like this technique limits productivity by building in a high proportion of forced rest time. However, being really focused for those 20 minutes actually really helps get things done and move things along, as it's a lot less likely that we're going to get distracted if we know a break is coming up soon. A lot of times, Pomodoro actually just helps us get started with work, and once we get into the flow of things, we find that we don't need to follow the timer so closely anymore.
We also adjust the timing of our Pomodoro windows based on the task that we're doing, as sometimes 20 minutes is a little too short to really get into something. For instance, if I'm editing a video, I prefer to set bursts of work for 40 minutes long and rest for up to 20 minutes. Because sometimes it feels like 20 minutes is way too short to really get into video editing, and to be honest, 5 to 10 minutes feels like too short of a break as well.
There's not a whole lot that you can do in a break that's only 5 to 10 minutes long, so it can feel like you didn't get much of a reward for doing a burst of focused work. Elongating the break period can then make more sense in the circumstances.
A YouTuber by the name of Josh Chen came up with a spin-off strategy on the Pomodoro technique called Pomodoro, which we also use from time to time. Pomodoro is a Pomodoro-like technique where you work for bursts of 40 minutes long, followed by watching an episode of anime, which is conveniently around 20 minutes long.
We've both used this method because we're both fans of anime, but it was actually because of Pomodoro that we realized that working for 40 minutes and then taking a break for 20 minutes was actually a really effective technique.
A 20-minute break period is perfect because it works with other things as well, not just anime. For example, Hearthstone, one of the games that I play, has a game mode called Battlegrounds, where each game is around 20 minutes long. So sometimes, if I'm not actively watching any anime or TV shows, I'll play a game of Hearthstone Battlegrounds as my 20-minute break, which I really enjoy.
While the specific strategy of watching anime or playing video games may not be suitable for all environments, such as if you work in an office, we find that the general strategy of working in focused bursts is really helpful in terms of providing structure for a work process. It's especially helpful if we're working on tasks that are less urgent and in situations where we feel our focus is waning, such as if it's late at night or over the weekend.
At the end of the day, and especially when there's not too much time pressure, it's all about getting the job done, and using techniques like the Pomodoro technique really help us stay focused and efficient.
The last strategy we use on a regular basis is the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is a strategy talked about in the book Getting Things Done by the productivity consultant David Allen. Essentially, the rule is that if something will take less than 2 minutes to do, it should be done immediately as it comes up.
Now there is a bit of contradiction between batching and the 2-minute rule, because with batching, we try to bring together a lot of small tasks that can include tasks that might take us less than 2 minutes to do. However, there are specific circumstances where we use the 2-minute rule where we find it to be very effective.
For example, if I'm waiting for Lloyd to finish doing something that won't take very long, such as sending out an email, I might find myself with about 15 to 20 minutes to kill. That's not really enough time to do anything substantial, but if I apply the 2-minute rule, I can do a number of smaller tasks during that time which, if left unchecked, could become really annoying later on.
So with short periods of time like that, we use the 2-minute rule to get simple tasks out of the way. Things like taking out the trash, putting some books away, or just cleaning up the home a little bit. These tasks individually aren't so bad, but if we leave them until a later date and have to do them all at once, they can really be quite time consuming and burdensome. So just looking for little things like this to do when we have a bit of free time really frees us up down the line to have bigger blocks of time which we can use effectively and productively.
So there you have it, guys. Those are some of the things that we think about and do to make the most of our time and also maximize our productivity.
It's definitely super important to apply time management and productivity tools that work with our lifestyles to help us be as efficient and productive as possible.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this video, please hit that like button below and consider subscribing.
And if you have any thoughts on future videos you'd like to see, or if you want to discuss any of the things that we raised in this video, please let us know in the comments.
Doing longer tasks like substantial amounts of effort.
The reason that context switching works is because it limits the amount of time we need to spend context switching. I said batching.
You said the reason context switching works is
because... Oh, did I say? Oh,
yeah.
The reason the batching works is because it limits the amount of context switching that's required.
Hi guys, welcome to our channel. It's Em.
And oh, I totally forgot. Didn't even read what my line was supposed to be. Sorry.